Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Ivan Pavlov's 1902 monograph, The Work of the Digestive Glands, stands as a monumental synthesis of physiological research, a testament to the power of meticulous experimentation and surgical ingenuity. Presented initially as a series of lectures, this work represents the culmination of over a decade of systematic inquiry conducted at the Institute of Experimental Medicine in St. Petersburg. It secured for Pavlov the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1904, and its contents laid the empirical and conceptual foundation for his subsequent, more famous investigations into conditioned reflexes. This essay will undertake a profound evaluation of the internal claims, methodologies, and arguments presented within this foundational text. Moving section by section through Pavlov's exposition, we will analyze the logical architecture of his research, examining how each layer of his argument contributes to a grand, unified vision of the digestive system as a precise, adaptive, and neurally governed chemical laboratory. The focus remains squarely on the evidence and reasoning Pavlov himself marshals within the 1922 work, charting the intellectual journey that solidified a new paradigm in the understanding of bodily function. Section 1. The general scheme and the psychical element. Pavlov's opening lecture establishes the philosophical and methodological core of his entire project. He presents the digestive canal as a complex, dynamic factory, processing raw materials with an astonishing degree of specificity and efficiency. The central claim here is one of purposiveness, an almost intelligent adaptation of glandular secretions to the nature of the food stimulus. He argues that the body's internal chemistry is a finely tuned instrument, responding with specific quantities and qualities of digestive juices tailored for each unique digestive challenge. The most radical and forward-looking claim in this introductory framework is the full physiological status he accords to what he terms psychical secretion. He posits that the sight, smell, or even the thought of food can trigger a potent flow of digestive juices. He frames this phenomenon as a completely material, observable, and quantifiable event, originating in the cerebral cortex and transmitted through the nervous system. This initial move is critical. It takes a phenomenon previously relegated to the ambiguous realm of psychology or subjective experience and anchors it firmly within the domain of objective physiology. His argument is that this psychical phase is the essential first act of digestion, preparing the alimentary canal for the impending arrival of food, an assertion he will spend the subsequent chapters proving with empirical Section 2, the precise work of the salivary glands. The analysis of the salivary glands provides the first detailed empirical demonstration of Pavlov's principle of adaptation through chronic experiments on dogs with surgically created salivary fistulas, which exteriorized the duct of a salivary gland to the cheek. He could collect and measure saliva uncontaminated by food. His primary claim in this section is that the salivary glands exhibit a remarkable discretion. The evidence presented is compelling. When presenting a dog with dry bread, the glands secrete a copious, mucus-rich saliva designed to lubricate the bolus for swallowing. When offered meat, the secretion is different. When inedible substances like clean pebbles are introduced into the mouth, the glands produce a profuse, watery saliva, a fluid Pavlov interprets as serving the purpose of cleansing the oral cavity by washing the object away. The evaluation of this claim hinges on the quantitative data he provides, measuring the volume and observing the viscosity of the collective fluids under varying stimulus conditions. He argues this differential output constitutes proof of a sophisticated sensory and motor reflex arc. The glands, through the nervous system, receive specific information about the physical and chemical properties of a substance and respond with a secretion specifically engineered to deal with it. This section methodically builds the case for the nervous system as a differential analyzer, demonstrating its capacity for nuanced, graded responses had served a clear biological. Section 3, Revolutionizing Gastric Physiology Through Surgical Innovation. This portion of the work details the surgical techniques that form the bedrock of Pavlov's most significant discoveries about the stomach. The central argument is methodological to understand the pure physiology of gastric secretion. One must isolate the process from the confounding variables of food mixing with the gastric juices. Pavlov critically evaluates the existing method, the Heidenhain pouch, which involved creating an isolated stomach sac. He claims this method was fundamentally flawed because the surgical procedure severed the pouch's connection to the vagus nerves. His own innovation, the Pavlov pouch, was a surgical tour de force. It created a similar isolated miniature stomach but meticulously preserved the vagal nerve supply. This technical superiority is the key to his subsequent claims. The second crucial technique described is the esophagotomy, a procedure creating an opening in the dog's esophagus so that swallowed food would fall out before reaching the stomach. When coupled with the Pavlov pouch, this allowed for sham feeding. The dog could eat for extended periods, experiencing all the sensations of a meal, while its stomach remained empty. Pavlov's claim is that this experimental setup provides unequivocal proof of psychical secretion in the stomach. The evidence is the robust, abundant flow of pure gastric juice from the innervated pouch during sham feeding. This appetite juice was produced without any chemical or mechanical stimulation of the stomach lining itself, demonstrating that the central nervous system, activated by the act of eating a soul and sufficient. Section 4, the vagus nerve, and the central command of the stomach. Following the demonstration of appetite juice, Pavlov proceeds to a direct investigation of its causal pathway. The central claim of this section is that the vagus nerve is the exclusive secretory nerve for the first, or psychical, phase of gastric digestion. The argument is built upon a classic experimental design of stimulation and ablation. The evidence from stimulation involved directly applying an electrical current to the vagus nerve in an anesthetized animal and observing the resultant secretion of gastric juice from the pouch. This established an excitatory function. The more powerful evidence came from ablation, or vagotomy, the surgical severing of the vagus nerves below the diaphragm. Pavlov reports that following a bilateral vagotomy, the phenomenon of appetite juice completely disappears. A dog with a pouch and an esophagotomy that previously secreted profusely during sham feeding would produce no juice at all after its vagus nerves were cut. This clean experimental result forms the logical cornerstone of his neural-centric model of gastric function. He also describes a second phase of gastric secretion, one initiated by the chemical action of food entering the stomach. However, his emphasis and the weight of his argument are placed sway on the primacy of the first, psychical phase. He claims it is the most potent and that the nervous system is the absolute master of the stomach's initial and most critical response to Section 5, the pancreas and the limits of neural explanation. In his lectures on the pancreas, Pavlov extends his overarching thesis of adaptive, neuroligand secretion. He claims, based on experiments using pancreatic fistulas, that the pancreas, like the salivary and gastric glands, tailors its enzymatic output to the specific type of food being digested. He presents data suggesting that a diet of bread elicits pancreatic juice rich in amylase, a diet of meat produces juice high in protease, and a milk diet results in a balanced secretion containing enzymes for all three food types. He attributes this fine-tuned response, a form of pancreatic intelligence, to the regulatory control of the nervous system. Here, Pavlov's argument for an exclusively neural control encounters its most significant challenge, a challenge that arose from a different laboratory almost concurrently. His framework attributes the flow of pancreatic juice primarily to reflexes initiated by the arrival of stomach acid and food in the duodenum, mediated by nerves. However, in the very year of Pavlov's book's publication, the English physiologists William Bayliss and Ernest Starling conducted their own decisive experiments. They demonstrated that introducing acid into a loop of the jejunum, even after severing all its nervous connections, still provoked a robust pancreatic secretion. This led them to discover a chemical messenger, which they named secretin, released from the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, which then travelled to the pancreas and acted as a powerful stimulant. The claim for the existence of this hormonal pathway offered a compelling and elegant explanation for pancreatic activation that operated independently of the nervous system. While Pavlov's work on the pancreas was characteristically meticulous, its theoretical commitment to nervism led it to underappreciate a fundamental humoral mechanism that other researchers would soon place at the centre of endocrinology. This historical juxtaposition highlights how even a powerful and coherent research program can possess blind spots, and how science progresses through the interplay of competing, yet ultimately complementary, explanatory frameworks. Section 6: The intestinal glands and the integrated system. The final descriptive section of Pavlov's work addresses the secretions of the small intestine itself, or the succus entericus. The claim here is a continuation and completion of his systemic view. He argues that the secretions of the intestinal glands, particularly the enzyme enterokinase, play a crucial activating role, converting the inert trypsinogen from the pancreas into the powerful protein-digesting enzyme trypsin. The evidence is derived from experiments showing that pancreatic juice alone has a weak effect on protein, but when mixed with intestinal juice, its digestive power increases dramatically. This finding serves to lock the entire digestive sequence into a tightly integrated cascade. The psychical stimulus prepares the stomach. The stomach's acidic chyme enters the duodenum, triggering via reflex the flow of pancreatic juice. This juice is then switched on by a substance from the intestinal wall. Pavlov's argument here reinforces his vision of the alimentary canal as a seamless assembly line, where each stage is perfectly prepared for the product of the preceding one. The entire system is presented as a deterministic and purposeful machine, with the nervous system acting as the superintendent overseeing the initial and most critical stages of the production process. His work provides a holistic blueprint of chemical digestion, from the initial thought of food to the final enzymatic activation in the intestine, all framed within a paradigm of exquisite physiological regulation. Conclusion: the work of the digestive glands is far more than a simple catalogue of experimental findings. It is a profound intellectual achievement that presents a comprehensive and internally consistent theory of physiological regulation. Pavlov's central claims regarding the adaptive nature of glandular secretion, the reality of psychical influence, and the overarching dominion of the nervous system were substantiated by an array of ingenious and difficult surgical techniques that became standards in the field. His evaluation of the salivary and gastric glands rested on the unassailable evidence produced by the fistula, the esophagotomy, and his improved stomach pouch, which together allowed him to dissect the digestive process with unprecedented precision. The work's argument for the vagus nerve as the master controller of appetite juice was a model of classical physiological proof. The ultimate significance of the monograph is twofold. First, definitively established the neural mechanisms governing the primary phases of digestion, transforming the field into a rigorous, quantitative science. Second, and with a degree of historical irony, in his quest to perfectly quantify the psychical secretions of the digestive glands, Pavlov inadvertently created the objective methods and the conceptual framework for studying the higher nervous activity of the cerebral cortex. The work on digestion, intended as an end in itself, became the perfect physiological preamble to the study of learning and behavior. It stands as a masterwork of experimental science, a text whose very rigor and precision not only solidified its own claims but also illuminated the path and the limits for future inquiry into the intricate dance between mind and body.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.